Hello everyone, and welcome back to the chess game series of Paul Morphy, and this is round 3 between Morphy and Harrwitz. In the series of matches, Morphy is losing and Harrwitz is winning with 2 and Morphy is 0 points. Daniel Harrwitz defeated Paul Morphy 3 times in a row, and Harrwitz became arrogant. So Harrwitz started to make fun with Paul Morphy disrespectfully, and Paul Morphy made a promise. After the second official loss to Harrwitz, Morphy said Harrwitz will not going to win another game. That was the promise of Paul Morphy. Will he be able to keep his promise and not let Harrwitz win one more single game? We're going to see. So this game was played on September 9 in 1858, Paris, in the city of love and art. So the first player who scores the 7th win will be victorious in the series of matches. Harrwitz needs 5 more wins to be victorious, and Morphy needs 7 wins. So Morphy never managed to defeat Harrwitz so far, and the stakes is 295 francs. The winner will get that money, and the winner also will get the chance to play with the world chess champion Adolf Anderssen, who was waiting in Germany at this time. So let's check out game 3 between Morphy and Harrwitz. So this time Daniel Harrwitz is playing with the white pieces, and Harrwitz starts the game with playing d4, f5 by Paul Morphy, the Dutch defense. Why Paul Morphy played the Dutch defense? Well, Paul Morphy created his own style against Harrwitz. He's adapting his style for his opponent, changing his style, changing and transforming his style for his opponent. So we have f5 by Paul Morphy, a very unexpected, unusual move. c4 by Harrwitz, e6, knight to c3, knight to f6, bishop to g5, bishop to b4 by Paul Morphy, pinning the knight, queen to b3, c5, d5, e5, e3, and Paul Morphy castled, bishop to d3, d6, knight from g to e2, h6, bishop takes knight, queen takes bishop, a3, bishop takes on c3, and Harrwitz captures the bishop with the queen, queen takes on c3, and Paul Morphy played queen to g6, and Harrwitz castled knight to d7, b4, b6, f3, h5, bishop to c2, bishop to b7, bishop to a4, attacking the knight. Paul Morphy is defending with the queen, bishop takes knight, queen takes on d7, b takes on c5, b takes on c5, f4, e4, rook from a to b1, controlling the open file, bishop to a6, rook from f to c1, queen to a4, and knight to g3, attacking the pawn. Paul Morphy pushed the pawn, attacking the knight. Knight to f1, this knight on f1 looks very passive. Rook from a to b8 by Paul Morphy, fighting for the open file, knight to d2, rook to b6, rook takes rook, a takes on b5, queen to b3. And in this position, Harrwitz was thinking that after exchanging the queens, calculating against the weaker player would be much more easier. So Harrwitz wants to exchange the queens, and Paul Morphy accepted the offer, queen takes on b3, Knight takes on b3, b5. C takes on b5. Bishop takes on b5. Knight to a5. Rook to a8 by Paul Morphy, attacking the knight. Knight to b7, attacking the pawn. Rook to a6, defending with the rook. Rook to c3, king to f8, knight to d8. Bishop to d7, rook to b3, king to e7. So Paul Morphy is attacking the knight, defending with the rook to b8. But after this move, Paul Morphy pushed the pawn c4. And how to defend the c-pawn? Paul Morphy is not going for the material with capturing the pawn on a3, but marching his pawn. An important move by Paul Morphy. And Harrwitz played king to f2, immediately activating the king and hoping to defend the pawn. But Paul Morphy played c3, king to e2, rook takes on a3. So Paul Morphy is a pawn up. We have knight to c6, that's check. Bishop takes on c6, d takes on c6, and also Harrwitz has his own passed pawn. Who is going to promote a queen first? Paul Morphy pushed the pawn, marching the pawn, c2, only one move left for Paul Morphy, but defending king to d2. What now? Well, Paul Morphy played the best move, as always. He played rook to c3 by Paul Morphy. How to defend? Well, Paul Morphy is sacrificing the rook. An epic move by Paul Morphy. King to c1 by Harrwitz. If king takes on c3, then c-pawn promoted to a queen, and white needs to resign. Black has the queen. So this is why Paul Morphy is sacrificing the rook for deflecting the king. King to c1, but then Paul Morphy captures on c6, and Paul Morphy has two extra pawns. Rook to b3, king to f6, rook to a3, g5, g3, h takes on g3, pawn takes pawn, g takes on f4, g takes on f4, king to g6 by Paul Morphy. And Paul Morphy's plan is very simple. Maneuvering the king to f3 and collecting the pawns. And black has two extra pawns. Well, Harrwitz, the overconfident chess player, who was humiliating and making fun with Paul Morphy, was very worried in this position, and he needs to resign. But Harrwitz is not resigning, and he played rook to a5. Maybe he's hoping that he's still going to win. He's still going to defeat Paul Morphy. And then he's going to defeat Paul Morphy for 4 times in a row. But that only happens in the fantasy novels, not in the real life against Paul Morphy after this position. No, that's not going to happen. So after rook to a5, Paul Morphy played rook to c5, offering for exchanging the rooks. Of course, Harrwitz declined. Rook to a6, attacking the pawn. Paul Morphy played rook to c3, not defending the pawn. And Harrwitz captures the pawn. Rook takes on d6, king to h5, rook to d2, king to g4 as planned. Going after the pawn. Rook to g2, that's check. Well, Paul Morphy played king to f3, and we have rook to g5. And in this position, if rook takes on c2, then exchanging the rooks, and king to f3, if king to d2, king to f2 is zugzwang for white. White can't defend the pawn. White is forced to make a move, and then losing the pawn. And black has 2 connected passed pawns. It's over for white. So after king to g4 by Paul Morphy, we have rook to g2 by Harrwitz, king to f3, rook to g5, rook to c5, defending the pawn, rook to h5, king takes on e3, and Harrwitz is still not resigning. What an arrogant chess player. We have rook to h4. Maybe Harrwitz still has some hopes against Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy played a move and Harrwitz resigned. King to f3 by Paul Morphy and Harrwitz resigned. After this position, and according to the legend, according to the eyewitnesses, after this game, the face of Harrwitz was red, and Harrwitz was sweaty, and he was shaking like an ill man, like a very sick man. This is what happened in the history. Harrwitz underestimated Paul Morphy, and he was not expecting this brilliant, unbelievable, beautiful positional chess game by Paul Morphy. So after king to f3, let me show you the possible continuation. So this is the last position of the game. Paul Morphy has 2 extra pawns, and after this position, it's impossible for white to defend. It's all over for white. So let's say rook to h1, e3. How to defend? Rook to h3, king to f2, rook to h2, king to g3, rook to h7, e2, rook to h1, king to f2, rook to h2, king to f3. If let's say rook to h3, that's check again. King to g2 is winning immediately. Rook to e3, king to f2. There is no defense. So king to b2, c-pawn promoted to a queen. There is nothing left to do for white. So after king to f3, let's say rook to h1. Then let me show you the possible moves. Faster. So rook takes on c1, rook takes rook, king takes on c1 and promoting a queen. It's over. And there is forced checkmate. Just like this. Queen to b3. Check. Mate. Or the king is dead for Harrwitz. So after this move, after king to f3 by Paul Morphy, the face of Harrwitz was red. And this was the first victory of Paul Morphy against Daniel Harrwitz. What a beautiful chess game by Paul Morphy. And how Paul Morphy played the Dutch defense against Harrwitz. Paul Morphy created his own style. Paul Morphy solved the style of his opponent, and then he changed his style, transformed his style for his opponent. This is unbelievable. This is genius, ladies and gentlemen. At first, Harrwitz was a very difficult player for Paul Morphy, but Paul Morphy is slowly transforming his style, adapting his style for his opponent. He is learning extremely quickly. This is insane. So anyway, after king to f3, the game ended. And this was game 3. And the score is 2 against 1. Harrwitz is 2 points and Paul Morphy is 1 point. And Harrwitz is still leading, but 1 extra point is nothing against Paul Morphy. And also, please don't forget that Paul Morphy kept his promise and not let Harrwitz to win. And is he going to do for the rest of the games? We are going to see. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and bye bye for now.